What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today we are talking about this rumor from my friend Doomcock over on his channel, Overlord DVD. If you have not seen this video, I will link it in the description below. Please go check it out. It's a very good video, very informative, and it raises a lot of questions. Now, before we get into the video, please go over to geeksandgamers.com if you have not. Make yourself an account. It's free to make an account. You'll have your own blog, private message system, and then you can jump into the forums for more discussions. And then if you want to support the site, please consider becoming a premium member for $10 a month. That gives you exclusive access and exclusive forum access with other premium members. We're going to have more content. We're going to have more live streams from the team, myself, and a lot more perks are set up for the future. Thank you so much for the support. We do appreciate it. We just launched this new website recently, and any support we can get will definitely go to building a bigger and better platform in the future for all of you. Okay, let's talk about this rumor from Doomcock. Now, this rumor is about a week old, and at first I didn't really want to talk about it because with Star Wars, I'm a little checked out on Star Wars right now because after the Rise of Skywalker, I mean, we got all proven right. You know, Disney Trilogy is a piece of shit. Disney clearly had to wake up to that reality because it didn't make, what did it make, $1 billion? That's 50% of your audience. You lost 50% of your audience, Disney, from The Force Awakens. So we were right. It was a piece of shit. And no one really talks about this movie anymore. Even further proving that we were right about everything that we were saying about the Disney trilogy. So this rumor came up and it's exploded. It's all over the place. People are talking about this rumor like crazy. And so many people have sent me messages about it. So I finally decided I would address it, and I'll give you my thoughts on this. Now, first and foremost, anytime someone reports on a rumor like this, as long as they qualify it as a rumor, I don't know where the issue is. Well, Doomcock did just that in the video.
As is always the case, this information comes to me from sources inside Disney or Lucasfilm, and given that I cannot independently verify this information, I must ask you to regard it as unverified rumor and take it with a grain of salt. That said, please...
There you go. What's the problem? I see a lot of people crying because Doomcock made a video, and it's about a rumor that apparently you don't like. And that's a you problem. As long as he qualifies what he says, which he does multiple times like he always does, I don't see what the issue is. Ultimately, he is reporting on a rumor that you don't like. And because of that, you're going to cry. And this is something that the Disney Trilogy fans have a problem with, is if you say something we don't like, we have to cancel you. You are this, you are that. Ultimately, this video is not about your subjective opinion of the Disney Trilogy. It's about the things that we know. It's about the facts. It's about the reality of the situation. And you can like the movies, that's perfectly fine, but they're not good movies. They're very shitty movies. So ultimately, it means you like bad movies. And I'm okay with that. I like plenty of bad movies. X-Men Origins Wolverine, I talk about it all the time. I like that movie. It's not a good movie. And they didn't move forward with that type of continuity. Why? Because it wasn't a good movie. Terminator Salvation. I really love that movie, but guess what? It wasn't successful. And guess what? They weren't going to move forward with that continuity because it was not successful. People didn't like it. I did. And I can still sleep at night knowing that I like bad movies. And that's a problem that Disney Trilogy fans seem to have, is they can't accept that other people have different opinions. Doomcock and I had a big disagreement a couple of weeks ago over the Dave Filoni situation. Guess what? We're still fine. We're still cool. We're still friends, and there's no issue at all. So, removing your subjective opinions of the Disney Trilogy from the equation, let's look at what we know. And what we know is The Force Awakens started out at $2 billion. And the heavy majority of Star Wars fans, general audience fans, and everyone was happy with Star Wars. And then we move into The Last Jedi. And The Last Jedi is where everything started to fall apart. And whereas The Force Awakens had about a 36% drop in week 2, Last Jedi had like a 68 or a 69% drop in week 2. And once The Last Jedi released, it opened a lot of people's eyes up as to what was going on with Lucasfilm and Disney. Now, to be fair, there were a small group of people that were unhappy with The Force Awakens, and they saw the writing on the wall early on. And what that did with The Last Jedi, once other people started to have their eyes opened up, it justified the criticisms of The Force Awakens, and I was not part of that crowd. It took The Last Jedi to wake me up, and finally I started seeing everything for what was going on, and so many others did as well. And The Last Jedi is really where everything fell apart, because if you look at The Force Awakens and post-Force Awakens, Kathleen Kennedy was doing every interview, she was on every show, she was talking to people, she was smiling for the camera, she's a front runner. But the moment things got a little tough after The Last Jedi, Kathleen Kennedy disappeared. She didn't want to do any interviews, she wasn't the Star Wars spokesperson anymore because she couldn't be a front runner, and she couldn't handle tough questions. And then we started seeing everything else fall apart. We saw the release of Solo lost money, and we saw a lot of other problems happen. Ultimately, Colin Trevorrow got fired. They brought in J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams gave us a complete trash fire with The Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker proved us right, and it made half the money that The Force Awakens made. That's what we know. These things happened. So, forgetting the subjective side of anybody's opinions of the movies, these things actually happened. Everything that I just referenced happened. And you have to think Disney is looking at that going, you know, we got a piece of shit on our hands, guys. This is not good. This is not good. And so you imagine they're having those discussions. So how does that tie into what Doomcock said? Well, what Doomcock said is that Disney has realized that they have a piece of shit. And he brought in the world in between worlds aspect. And if you're a Rebels fan like me, and no, I don't love Rebels. It's good. It's fine. It's not great, but it's okay. But that's a pretty prominent, storyline within Rebels with Ahsoka and Ezra and everything like that. Well, he's talking about them using that to erase the Disney trilogy. Now, I think there is some interesting elements that we can point to as to why that could make sense. But before we get further into that, let me just say, I don't fully buy the rumor. I buy the fact that I 100% buy that Doomcock has been told this. What I'm saying is I don't buy the rumor of the world in between worlds. I just don't. But I do have more thoughts that I'm going to add after I give you more context to this. But as far as the world in between worlds aspect, who worked on World in Between Worlds? Who worked on Rebels? Dave Filoni. Well, who's Dave Filoni? Dave Filoni's the man behind the Clone Wars. And who has Dave Filoni been working closely with? Jon Favreau. And who is Jon Favreau? Jon Favreau's the man that just gave us The Mandalorian. And just a few weeks ago, yours truly reported on a breaking story with Cameron Pasha. Producer Cameron Pasha talked about how Jon Favreau hated The Last Jedi. Jon Favreau did not like The Last Jedi, did not like what was going on with Star Wars in general, and wanted to come in and save Star Wars. So, there's a lot of interesting little nuggets there. Now, we have made a lot of the Rotten Tomatoes scores with The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. The damn score never moved. The audience score never moved. Like 86%, it's still at it. But we want to look at two scores that I think lead us down a path to see who should be leading Star Wars into the future. Now, the first one we're going to look at is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian. Regardless of what you think, that is insane numbers. Now, The Mandalorian, to me, is good. It's better than Rebels, but it's not as good as The Clone Wars. But I did enjoy it. But it's safe, which is kind of what we needed. It's kind of what we needed. And if we are going to sit here and if we're going to believe that Jon Favreau is the man that Cameron Pasha tells us he is from what he has heard from his sources, then Jon Favreau, he probably looked at the terrain of Star Wars and he probably said, we don't need a grand slam right now. We don't even need a home run right now. We just need a solid double. And I know I'm getting into sports analogies, but just a double. We just need to get on base and in scoring position. So, The Mandalorian is safe. It's absolutely safe. But it's what we needed from Star Wars. And maybe Favreau is looking at it from going, we're in the gutter. And we just need something consistent that's going to pull everybody back in. I believe that's what he gave us with The Mandalorian. The numbers suggest that right here. Obviously, Baby Yoda set the internet on fire. And again, The Mandalorian got us back to where we wanted to be as Star Wars fans. Talking about Star Wars lore and continuity, not about identity politics. So I'm okay with that. Now, the Clone Wars Season 7, Dave Filoni worked on that, and Dave Filoni is working closely on The Mandalorian with Jon Favreau. And why do I keep bringing that up? Because the world in between worlds, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. Clone Wars Season 7 was fantastic. That's not to say that I didn't have issues with Season 7, because I did, and I documented those on the channel, even though there are those out there that'll tell you Jeremy will not criticize Dave Filoni. I caught hell from Dave Filoni fans for a month. But because I didn't criticize Filoni for a 5-year-old video, suddenly I've never criticized Dave Filoni. It's the most insane thing I've ever heard. But it is what it is. I loved the final 4 episodes of Season 7 of The Clone Wars. It's some of the best Star Wars I've ever seen. But I did have problems with the early parts of The Clone Wars. So if we're going to praise Dave Filoni as to be this guy that gives us all of this awesome Star Wars, I'm not going to argue with you. But we have to note that there have been some questionable decisions from a creative standpoint that we have to acknowledge. And those early decisions in the Clone Wars and the Sisters arc needs to be noted. Absolutely needs to be noted. But it in no way erases everything that he's given us with the Clone Wars and Rebels. Even though Rebels, like I said, I didn't love it, but it was fine. But it has some amazing moments in it. And then we get to Season 7 of the Clone Wars. So, with that said, I could definitely see a subtle move away from the Disney Trilogy continuity. I can't see the world in between worlds aspect to erase it completely. I just can't see it. Do I hope that's the case? 100%. Absolutely. I would give anything if that's true. And I hope to hell that Doomcock's sources are 100% accurate. I'm just telling you that if I'm looking at this, I could see a subtle move away from the Disney Trilogy continuity, and I could see them embracing more of George's Star Wars. Now, that would mean Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would be taking the leadership. And if we know anything about Lucasfilm, they absolutely know how to ignore certain things within the continuity to embrace others. Because they've been ignoring George Lucas's vision since 2012 when they purchased it. Really, I'd say since more so 2015 once, The Force Awakens released. But they've been ignoring George Lucas's vision. Look at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. They just completely ignored George Lucas's vision. So they know how to ignore something. So maybe they can flip that logic and start ignoring the sequel trilogy continuity that has been proven to be a disaster. And it's not like Star Wars fans aren't willing to accept good Star Wars, because The Mandalorian and The Clone Wars Season 7 and Jedi Fallen Order were all very good and well received from the fans. So make a subtle move away from the Disney trilogy, and then start embracing George Lucas's vision more. You've got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who clearly have a good working relationship. Jon Favreau just the other day talked about how you have to listen to the fans, which is something that I didn't think I'd hear from anyone at Lucasfilm in the near future. But Jon Favreau talking about listening to the fans, what a weird idea for Lucasfilm. And we'll move forward and see what happens. But that's just my speculation on it. And I do think it's very interesting. You really need to go watch Doomcock's video, because he goes into detail on this. So it's not like he's just saying, hey, yeah, I heard this, take it with a grain of salt. He's like, hey, I heard this, take it with a grain of salt, but bam. And he gives you insane details and context to back up what he's saying. And people are still mad at him about it. It's unbelievable. These people are weird, man. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about this because so many people asked me about it. Moving forward, Star Wars is in a weird place, and tomorrow we can get a Rian Johnson trilogy announcement for all I know. I'm kind of checked out on Star Wars as a whole. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. I am cautiously optimistic for The Mandalorian Season 2, but the thing we have to remember, above all else, as I make this video right now, Kathleen Kennedy is still in charge at Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy is still the decision maker as far as we know. And one thing we know about Hollywood is they love to take things that are really popular and interject social justice into it. So The Mandalorian Season 2 is on its way. And it is really popular. People loved it. The internet fell in love with it. The numbers support it, that the majority of Star Wars fans like it. That is ripe for the SJW nonsense from someone like Kathleen Kennedy. She sees popularity, she sees people love something, and she's going to go, that's my opportunity right there. The Force is female. We'll see. I don't know. So I'm just saying, as we stand, Kathleen Kennedy's still the leader. She's still in charge. And as much as we maybe want to be excited for The Mandalorian, and I am, we have to note that she's still in charge. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for checking out this video. Solo lost money. Reylos are weird. Fuck Naughty Dog. And we will talk to you later.